Hi there. My name is Terces, and I want to welcome you to the Unreasonably Grateful podcast, Living in Grace by Choice. So every week I start by saying, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of my journey. Thank you for allowing me to step into your journey for a few moments every week. I keep these episodes between, 5 and 10 minutes, thinking that all of us can carve out a little bit of time to kind of shift our attention and focus on what might support our growth or our development or recovery or healing. And I want you to know that I appreciate you being here. Every week I do these, and it's an opportunity for me to just sit quietly and listen and let some of the wisdom that I've gleaned over my 38, soon 39 years of recovery from living an addictive lifestyle, healing from teenage sexual abuse, and then an eating disorder for 20 years, from 16 years old to 36. And as entering my mid 70s, I'm so grateful that I listened to that internal wisdom and took the steps towards recovering my life. And it wasn't always neat and tidy. There were lots of messy moments, and there was pain and loss and sorrow, but also great joy. So wherever you are on your journey, thank you again for being a part of this. And I hope that you glean something. I hope you hear something in a way that perhaps you haven't heard it before, or maybe you have heard it in exactly the same way. But now you're in a place where it can sink in and it can make a difference for you. And yeah, encourage you along, ease you along this journey that you're on, and yeah, help you move further and closer to who you were designed to be so that you can share yourself with the world in a meaningful way and have a sense of purpose and value and appreciation. So, thank you for being here. I want to invite you also, if there's some topic or something that you would actually really love to hear something about, just let me know. You can always write at tercesenglehart.com. That's my website. It's also where you can sign up for individual sessions. And a session simply means we get together virtually, and I sit and I listen and I reflect who I see you as and what I'm hearing. And as an elder, it's such an honor to be able to sit with people younger than myself, or newer to the healing journey of picking up the broken pieces of yourself. It's such an honor and a privilege. And mostly what happens in those sessions is I share with you who I see you as, which is always a brighter vision of yourself than perhaps the one you hold. And it's always good to be encouraged and championed along our way. So if that's something that interests you, you can also sign up on that same website, tercesenglehart.com. And that's in the notes of this episode. And if you go to this session, work together, you can make an appointment, and it is on a donation basis. So for all of you who have done that, I'm so grateful for the connection that we've made. And I always leave inspired and moved by just what it is to be somebody who takes on putting their life back together again. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, so this particular episode is called Selfish and Selfless. So I want to talk a moment about those and have us kind of dig in and discover something together. So I would say most of us actually want to avoid suffering. We're not thrilled about the idea of suffering. Suffering being one way you could say it is it's a separation from the divine, however you say that, separation from God, separation from divinity. It's a lonely place. And usually some of the feelings and emotions, the thoughts, the attitudes, all of those things that go along with that are ones that keep us separated, justified, oftentimes prideful, angry, disappointed, discouraged, hopeless. Those are some of the emotional experiences that I feel go along with suffering. And one of the ways that we experience suffering is through selfishness. Now, selfishness isn't a bad thing in and of itself. There are times when it's great to put yourself first. You need to put yourself first. You need to take care of yourself. That's not what I mean by selfishness. Selfishness usually diminishes somebody else. Here, I can actually read you the definition. I looked it up. I have it up here on my screen, and it says selfish is lacking consideration for others, concerned mostly with one's own personal profit or pleasure. So it's an adjective. That's the definition of selfish when I looked it up. So it's concerned about yourself and lacking consideration for others. You can be concerned about yourself and not lack consideration for others. So, for example, making healthy choices, that would not be selfish, even though it may be a concern for yourself. Making sure you get rest, making sure you eat, making sure that what you're reading or listening to is encouraging you or inspiring you or educating you, some of those things. And that would not be considered selfish. However, when it's a lack of concern or consideration of someone else, stepping over someone, ignoring someone's need or request in order to just simply do what you want to do or go where you want to go. So it's a way of actually diminishing others as you advance yourself. That would be considered selfish. Or pushing others away in order to have a more prominent position or role. That would be considered selfish. Uh, and that's where most of the suffering is. So if we want to suffer, then be selfish. But mostly, if you're suffering, it's a good key to look and see, is there some way or somewhere in your life where you're being selfish? And again, that is not simply caring for yourself. And then selfless, here's the definition of selfless. Oops, excuse me. The definition of selfless is the opposite of selfish. If you're selfless, you think less about yourself and more about others. You're generous, you're kind. Being selfless is similar to being altruistic, another word for giving to others without looking at what's in it for you or what's the personal gain out of the contribution you've made. So sometimes we resist selflessness. We think, particularly I think in this world, in this culture, and in these last maybe, I don't know, 10, 15 years, there's been a huge increase in, I want what I want when I want it. I want it my way. And I'd say there's been an increase in suffering. And so selflessness doesn't mean you don't count. It doesn't mean you don't matter. It doesn't mean you're not important. But it does mean that you have your attention and consideration for others. One of the ways that you can pull yourself out, actually, of suffering, if you're feeling that separation, is to do something unexpected for someone else, to just do something kind, be generous in some way, be thoughtful. And what happens as soon as we take that action in that direction, we kind of pull ourselves of that separation or the experience of suffering, and we begin to express some selflessness, which doesn't exclude us taking care of ourselves. So I just want to be sure that you hear that. Because sometimes the argument is, I'm always doing for other people at my expense. And that's not what I'm saying. And it's important to do for other people and not always be calculating what you are getting from it. The return is often delayed, sometimes never even seen or personally experienced, but it doesn't mean that there isn't a return. And one of the returns that immediately happens is when you do something for someone else, you move yourself further away from any experience of suffering. So this week, take that on. One, take the time to notice if you're experiencing some of those emotional feelings that we relate to suffering, separation, aloneness, frustration, anger, disappointment, hopelessness, discouragement, anxiety, apathy. If you're feeling those emotions, then look and see, are you trapped in some expression of selfishness? And if so, practice selflessness. Do something kind, something unexpected, something generous, altruistic towards someone else. It's like a lifeline to end the experience of suffering. So take that on this week. And I'll be here next week to see you and cheer you on. Have a beautiful week.